Preheat here, and accompanying me is Tim Gibson from Hanes. We're both super excited to be in the second session following Josh and Kelly, who just kicked us off for the start of the virtual event. And so far, you guys have learned a lot about how to really start a t-shirt business from the expert Josh Ellsworth himself, and we wanted to bring in another expert from the apparel side. So welcome, Tim.
Hi, thank you so much, Jenna. It's good to be back again on Stahls. It's my second webinar with you all, so I'm excited to be invited back. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And so for a while now, Hanes has really just kind of owned that brand name as being one of the top as far as brands go for blank apparel. So we are really excited to talk about Hanes and being able to print t-shirts. So in this session specifically, guys that are joining us, we are going to be talking about 100% cotton t-shirts by the best Hanes. So that's why we have Tim here to kind of give us a deep dive of Hanes and some of the styles that they offer in 100% cotton. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Tim, and then we'll talk about some heat printing tips for those.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to work for Hanes now for over 2 years, almost 2.5. I have many years in the industry. I myself started as a decorator, so I started as a screen printer when I was about 19 out of college, and so I understand what it takes to start a screen printing business. I actually have a little shop of my own that I kind of do as a hobby, more or less. But so I understand what it takes when you're getting started and you're learning. There's so much to learn as far as technical and equipment and inks and supplies and blanks. So Hanes is really the one who started the whole, I would say revolution is a word I like to use when it comes to blank apparel. His brand is 100 years old, and Hanes started many years ago in this space in printwear, and most famous for the beefy tee. So the Hanes beefy tee was like the big shirt for many years, and it's actually having a little resurgence, which is really cool. But today we're going to talk about our perfect tee. So perfect tee is a new launch for us in 22. It's available now at most of our wholesalers. Style number 4980. It comes in 41 colors, small through 5X. And it's really kind of our fashion brand in the Hanes space, where it's not side seamed, it's tubular, but it is combed ring spun, 100% cotton. It does have what we call clean canvas technology, which is a special treatment we do to the fabric. And what clean canvas does is it helps control fibrillation. It's wonderful for DTG. It has a hydrophilic component which allows it to absorb just the right amount of water or pre-treatment, which is awesome. It helps with fibrillation, so it's great for screen printing, great for vinyl. It's great for water-based printing, discharge. So there's all kinds of different treatments you can do to this garment.
Amazing. So whenever people are first starting to get into t-shirt printing, would you say that this would be one of the t-shirts that they would want to start with because it is so easy to decorate as far as different heat transfers and that go?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that. It's a good entry-level fashion piece, so to speak. The price point's great. It's about $1 less than most of the upper tier fashion brands. And it's very forgiving, as you said, Jenna. So it's kind of hard to burn it. It won't scorch easily. It is 100% cotton, which is a benefit as opposed to doing some of the CPCs or tri-blends out there. So for a beginner, yeah, the 4980 Perfect Tee is a great choice for getting started.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, cotton is extremely forgiving, but not all cotton is made the same. There is a lot of really soft cottons out there as opposed to some really stiff ones. So could you speak to the difference in some of those other cotton pieces that are out there, what to avoid as far as what you might not want to offer as far as a premium standpoint goes?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few variables there, right? So one of the things that we hang our hat on is all of our cotton is U.S. grown cotton, which is really the best quality cotton in the world. So it's a longer staple yarn, uses less water. So there's all kinds of reasons that we use U.S. grown cotton. A lot of it grown right here in Texas, where I'm based. So the difference between a carded open end and a ring spun per se is the length of the yarn, right? So when they spin it, the longer the piece of yarn, the less pieces will have to be woven together, which causes more fibrillation. So that's a big benefit of ring spun, is that you've got a longer staple piece of yarn, and that cuts down on fibrillation. So that's a big deal, because when you print or even do vinyl, I would assume sometimes you get some little fibers that stick up through the print, and then that's not always desirable. So that's a big benefit.
Right. So you said that you were a screen printer yourself. What is the go-to t-shirt that you typically print whenever you're going to use screen print or any other type of different print method out there?
Yeah, I mean, I have my go-tos. Obviously, I don't want to be the homer, but I do like the 4980. I think the perfect tee is, it's, again, there's 41 colors. It's a great price point. That's kind of my go-to. And then speaking of go-to, one of our other brands, Alternative, is the go-to 1070 t-shirt. So that's our higher, more premium fashion blank. So that's probably my favorite in that range. And then the 5280 is our kind of basic price point, because it's like a good, better, best. So we do make a carded open end for more promotional use and when you have a budget. So the 5280, 4980, and then 1070. Those are my three favorites.
Great. So you guys will get to see the 4980 in hands after the event. Hanes donated a bunch of this very popular style for you guys to really start working with and testing out some of your materials. So we will definitely be getting this sample sent out to you so that you guys can get it in hand, see it for yourself, and work with some of those more premium cottons. Now, Tim mentioned that this cotton is US made, which is very important to a lot of us who are wanting to source a lot of US made products. We work with a lot of different customer types in different markets, and you guys will find that some customers, that is a very important factor to them when it comes to purchasing a blank. Do you often come across that, Tim, whenever you're working with different people sourcing blanks?
We do. And just to clarify, the cotton's US grown. So we grow.
Grown, sorry, yes.
I don't want to claim anything that's not accurate, but yeah, I mean, that's a huge selling point. And that's just, one of the many. There's a lot of eco and sustainability stories behind that, even less transportation costs. There's a lot of reasons we use US grown cotton. And obviously sustainability is a big deal today, as it should be. And we've been doing things in the sustainable space for many years. We've just not really talked about it. So there's a lot of great things, again, associated with using US grown cotton, for example.
Great. So we talk a lot about this cotton and, the importance of it, but it also, from a profitability standpoint, is pretty lucrative to be able to source a premium cotton like this, because you're going to be able to warrant a higher price point as well. So whenever you're comparing this to some of the, did you call it a carbon-ended fiber?
Carded open end.
Carded open end. So I totally butchered that, but carded open end cotton. That's why we have the expert here. That's why Tim is here, so he can correct me on this stuff. But yes, so whenever you guys are comparing those side by side, you can really feel the softness of the t-shirt. So whenever you guys get that sample in hand, you'll be able to see that, compare it to some of the other cottons out in the market. I will say, with sustainability being extremely important, as things are continuing to be innovative within that industry, sustainability is continuously being talked about, not just in 100% cotton products, but also even in blends, where we're seeing a lot of recycled plastic to create some of those polyester synthetic fabrics in those blends that really just speak to that sustainability. So you guys will see that buzzword a lot, but just know, as long as you are choosing the right planks, you will be reaching that and being able to target customers that are really big on that. As Josh mentioned in the last session, it's really important to know your customer, choose your niche, or whatever you want to be able to print for these customers. And it's always easy to start with a t-shirt. So that is why we are here offering suggestions on what styles of t-shirts that you should be printing, starting first with 100% cotton, because as Tim mentioned, they are very forgivable. You don't have to worry about scorching or burning those t-shirts as you are using different print methods or solutions. But in the next couple of classes, you will see it as well. There are other t-shirt styles out there. So Tim mentioned that there are blends, tri-blends, which offer a more even premium finish. And we will teach you guys how to print those. But in this class, we're going to focus on 100% cotton. You guys will see this substrate a lot as you guys are sourcing, because it is most commonly used alongside some of those 50-50 blends. So with all that being said, thank you guys. Thank you, Tim. We're just going to keep talking a little bit about t-shirt styles and different print methods. And we're going to go ahead and get started on the heat press. So 100%.
Jenna, before you start, we have some questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shauna.
Yep. So the first question is from Nancy. She wants to know if the sizes run true or if they are smaller than normal.
Yeah, so the sizes on that shirt in particular are definitely true to size. You know, we still call it a fashion cut, but I would say it's more true to size than some of the others in the industry. So if you wear a medium in another brand or a retail brand, you're going to wear a medium in the perfect tee. So they are true to size. Keep in mind, they're not going to be as loose and baggy as a traditional t-shirt, but they definitely are true to size. So you can have confidence there.
Thank you. Tony asks, what type of t-shirt would be best to use for sublimation?
For sublimation, so you would want poly rich for dye sublimation. So preferably 100% poly or high poly content, 80-20. I have seen people have success with 60-40 blends, which is a CVC. So it's 60 cotton, 40 poly. But you definitely want a poly rich fabric when you're doing dye sublimation, so that ink adheres to the substrate.
And then Leandra asks kind of a follow-up question to that. Does Hanes also have a good, better, best in the polyester t-shirt version?
In a 100% poly, I wouldn't say we have a good, better, best. We make a couple styles in 100% poly. The 4200 is one of them. That is a 100% poly. So that's probably our most popular shirt. We also make one in Champion. So Champion makes one, I believe. I don't want to call the style number and be inaccurate, but there is a 100% poly Champion style as well. And then there are a few styles from our alternative brand that you can look at as well, including 1070, the CVC version of that, which is a blend that I've seen people have success as well with dye sub.
Thank you. The next question is from Creston asking, do those styles that you indicated earlier, the 4980, 5280, and 1070, do those come in long sleeve also?
They do, actually. All three of those come in a long sleeve version. And okay. Check out brandwearunited.com is where we house all of our brands. Sorry for the plug, but that's really just the best resource for you to find all that. It's very searchable. So brandwearunited.com is a great resource.
Thank you. And then the last question is from Kathy. And she asks, can you repeat what types of printing work on cotton?
On cotton, plastisol, just standard screen printing with plastisol. Vinyl cutting, which Jenna is about to show, vinyl, heat transfers, water-based printing, discharge water-based printing, pretty much anything. Cotton is really the most forgiving, as we talked about earlier. So when you're learning, especially, cotton's the way to go, because first of all, it's less expensive if you mess one up. and frankly, it's harder to mess one up. I mean, you have to really be doing something wrong to mess up a 100% cotton shirt. So pretty much any decorating technique, with the exception of dye sublimation, which, to the last question, is you need poly for that.
Okay, that's it. And we'll get to the rest of the questions next break. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Shauna. And thank you, Tim, for answering all of those questions. So we are going to dive into 3 different styles of heat transfers that actually work on 100% cotton. So we'll be sure to take a deep dive there. So if you guys have more questions on transfer types, feel free to comment those in. We definitely want to make sure that we are getting all of your questions asked. So first things first is that, as we were talking about 100% cotton, there are a lot of different styles out there. You can get solid t-shirts, crew neck t-shirts, v-neck, swoop neck, I think is what it's considered, and then even crop style. So there are a lot of different styles out there, all of which are very popular and allow you to reach different market types. One of those popular markets is spirit wear. And one style of cotton t-shirt that we are seeing trend very heavily are tie-dye t-shirts. So you guys can get these wholesale. They're also very popular to be able to do at home as well. So if you guys want to make your own tie-dye t-shirts, you can do this too. But we often see this done with 100% cotton. That is what that garment dye absolutely holds onto very well, so that it's not coming off in the wash. So first things first, we're going to go through the steps on how to properly load a t-shirt onto your heat press and to get a successful print. All right, so this is the front of my t-shirt here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is go to the bottom hemline and open this up, right? And then I'm going to thread this on to my bottom platen. So you can see that I am working with the A to Z heat press here. It is a swing away heat press, which allows me to have a lot of open space and open area as I am placing my transfer. That is one of the reasons that I love working with this heat press, is because it has that heat-free layout. There's not a heating element right in my face or in my way of being able to look over top of my garment and place my transfer. So it really helps with getting a good idea of where you should be placing your transfer to get good alignment. So whenever I am threading this on, as I mentioned, we're opening up the bottom of the t-shirt, and then I'm just basically dressing my bottom platen with that shirt. And then once that single layer of my t-shirt is on top of my platen, I'm just moving this around to make sure that my collar is center of my platen. The A to Z heat press does have a 15 by 15 dimension. So that is plenty of space for me to be able to do any standard front print location. Right, so the idea here is that we want to get our print area completely flat, and anything that could cause uneven pressure entirely out of the way, so that nothing messes with our heat transfer curing accurately to that shirt. Now, if you are working with a heat press that does not have the ability to thread, and what that means is that there is just an open space underneath the platen here that gives you enough room to really be able to dress that bottom platen. Now, if the feet of your heat press at home is directly attached to your bottom platen, then you have accessories available to you that will help thread the garment so that you can get any structures, seams, buttons, anything like that out of the way, so that you do have that even pressure. So one of those heat press accessories is known as a heat printing pillow. You can also get pads and other accessories such as interchangeable platens that will also help to isolate your print area. All right, so that is key to getting your application done Right. So we want to make sure we have accurate pressure alongside correct time and temperature. And then we want to make sure our print area is completely isolated, nothing causing any uneven pressure. So that is all key. And you guys will have the instructions of the time, temperature, and pressure application in any heat transfer that you are working with from Stahls. So we always be sure to include those instructions so you always know what time, temperature, and pressure a product needs to be to apply accurately. All right, so we have our t-shirt loaded on our platen here. We've threaded it. We're just working with that top single layer. Why is this important? Why is threadability important? One, we've already mentioned we want to isolate pressure or isolate our print area for accurate pressure. Two, if I were to just lay the t-shirt right on top, which you can still do, it's not going to entirely like mess up your application or anything, but this is just one of those tips and best practices that you can use so that you can ensure an even pressure every time. If I were to just lay that t-shirt right on the platen, I would risk the chance of wrinkles from the back of the shirt coming through the top, and which would just cause me spending more time getting my t-shirt loaded. Okay, so threadability really helps with getting that nice flat and even pressure so that we can ensure that our heat transfers apply correctly every time. Right, so that is pressure. Next thing is time and temperature. So as I am locking this down, I am doing a preheat. My time and temperature is always going to be based on what heat transfer that I am applying. Right, so I have my temperature set on my heat press to 325. You can see it's fluctuating up and down a little bit, which is totally normal. But as long as we're in that 320 to 325 range, we are good. 5 degrees isn't going to make a huge difference. But as long as I have my temperature set to 325, which is recommended for the heat transfer that I'm about to apply, then I know that I'm good to go. Next thing is our time. Right, so we have our temperature of 325. The next thing I need to do is set my time for 15 seconds. So I'm going to make sure that this reads out at 15 seconds. So whenever you guys are working with heat presses, you'll notice that a lot of them have those time and temperature readouts. That is very important to know that you are accurate every single time you go to lock down your heat press, so that your print applies correctly. We also want to make sure that with our heat press, we are getting the accurate temperature that is reading out. So that's another thing that I love about the A to Z is that I have accurate temperature every single time. And one of the ways to test that best is to just get a heat gun and put it up to your heating element to make sure the heat gun is actually reading out the same temperature that your heat press is reading out on its digital screen there. Okay, so like I said, we do want to do a preheat. What this is going to do is prep my garment. Cotton does tend to hold a decent amount of moisture. So we want to make sure that we're releasing that moisture, and by putting heat to it, it will release that. The first time I ever worked with a 100% cotton t-shirt, I thought I was burning it because I wasn't expecting all of the steam to release from it. I don't even remember what kind of 100% cotton t-shirt it was, but it just had so much moisture in it. And when I locked that upper heating element down, all this steam just started rolling out, and I didn't know why that was happening. So that's actually why. So if you ever see that happening on your 100% cotton t-shirts, it's just steam and it is a-okay. It's totally fine. You're not burning or scorching it at all. All right, so preheat gets moisture and wrinkles out of the fabric and helps prep it for application. Another thing that does is it also, I'm gonna bring that right back to me, it's gonna allow me to test my pressure. So the transfer that we are going to apply is a screen print transfer. And this is actually a Plastisol ink. So if you guys haven't worked with screen print transfers, you guys will be learning about these a lot throughout the duration of today's event. But what this is Plastisol ink. that is transferred onto a release paper. And once I heat apply this, this plastisol ink is actually going to transfer to my t-shirt. All right, so this plastisol ink solution is known as goof proof, and it is by Stahls Transfer Express, their top selling screen print ink that is super easy to work with. That's why it's called goof proof. All right, so we want to just take our transfer. We're going to put this face down onto our 100% cotton. And this product I absolutely love on 100% cotton. Now, before I place this, a tip that I always recommend is lifting up your transfer, because you can see how much space my design has from the edge of my transfer. Now, as far as alignment goes, since I'm working with a crew neck t-shirt, I want to be about 3 inches from the collar to the start of my print. Right, so a rule of thumb is just to take 4 fingers, place that down right below the hemline of your collar, and then your pinky should be right at the top of where your design starts. So if I lift this up and place my fingers down, I want to make sure that that's where my design is starting. So I'm going to scoot this up a bit, and then I can place my transfer. One thing that I do love about these transfers, in addition to just the finish of the ink that it offers, as far as working with it goes, it's very easy to work with, but it also does have grid lines on the back of the transfer, which really help me with eyeing up if my transfer is going to be straight whenever I heat apply it. All right, so I'm just paying close attention to where these grid lines are, making sure they're nice and straight. And now all I have to do is apply the product. So I'm going to bring my heating element around. I know my temperature is set to 325. This is going to apply for 15 seconds, and then the transfer will be complete. And I'm at a nice firm pressure. Now, anytime I work with an A to Z heat press, I always make sure when I'm doing plastisol ink transfers, I'm at a nice firm pressure so that it can apply it correctly to my garment. All right, and goof proof is a hot peel, so I can go ahead and remove that. And my design is complete. Right now, this is a distressed finish, which is an effect that you're able to apply to your design whenever you are creating this through the Transfer Express website. Right, so we have a class later on that Dave Connor will be teaching you guys all on how you can design in EasyView Designer. All right, so Tim, you mentioned that you do a lot of plastisol ink printing on your 100% cotton tees. Have you ever worked with screen print transfers?
I have actually. I use Transfer Express myself, and I love the name Goof Proof because it really is.
It is.
And it's actually, I mean, it's easier to do, especially for small runs, to do transfers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to burn screens. There's no setup. It's just very efficient, and it looks great. It looks every bit as good on a transfer, maybe even better and cleaner lines than traditional screen printing.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to kind of see the screen print process and all the steps it goes through to actually like burn a screen. And there's a term called emulsion.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening there, but it is a big process. So, I mean, I think for me, if I'm just getting started out of a room in my house, screen print transfers is definitely the way to go to be able to serve those customers that want that screen print finish. But screen printing is definitely a very popular method overall. And a lot of people are familiar with what screen print is. It's what they see in retail. And so if you guys have customers that are coming to you specifically requesting screen print, just know you do have heat transfer options that you can use, that all you need is a heat press. You don't necessarily need the whole setup of the screen print equipment. All right, so
a few other questions have come in.
Okay, yeah, great.
Sure. So Allison asks, on a lot of the instruction sheets from Transfer Express, it says add 10 degrees if you do not have a Hottronics press. She wants to know if you add 10 degrees to the A to Z press.
Okay, so technically, this is a Hotronix heat press. So this is just the starter heat press from Hotronix. So I'm good to go for following the instructions that Transfer Express gives for this Hotronix machine. Now, if I were using another machine, like a lot of our customers use some of the starter heat presses from Amazon, they do add 10 seconds whenever they're using those types of heat presses.
Okay, great, thanks. The next question is from Leandra. She asks if I've heard conflicting stories regarding press pillows. Can you please touch base on when it is best to use those?
Yes, so really great question. You want to use heat press pillows if you are doing heat transfer vinyl, specialty heat transfers, anything but plastisol transfers. Okay, so you'll notice that I just threaded this on. I didn't use the pillow since I was using a plastisol ink transfer. However, if you ever do need to isolate a print area, Transfer Express does offer mouse pads, or you can get Print Perfect pads as well. And these are just really great accessories to be able to raise a print area if you're printing very close to a seam, or next to buttons if you're doing like a left chest logo on a polo, for example. So there are different accessories out there for you to utilize. But yes, just use heat press pillows if you are doing vinyl or any other type of specialty heat transfer, as opposed to if you're working with plastisol ink where you would just want to use pads.
Okay, two more questions. One from Shalena. She asks if the gray surface on the A to Z press is a cover for the machine. Is it something that she should have on her press?
Yes, so you don't have to have it, but yes, it is a cover. And what it does is it protects the wear and tear of the silicone pad that's on the platen. It also makes it super easy to thread on shirts because this is rubbery. So whenever I'm threading on, or whenever you're threading on, it probably gets stuck a little bit on there, where this is like a non-stick cover. And it's super silky, so it just like slides right on. So I definitely recommend having the cover. It definitely makes life easier.
Okay, and then the last question is for Tim. It's from Junior. He asks which Hanes t-shirts would be recommended for white toner transfers.
For white toner transfers, you got me on that one. I've not worked with white toner transfers, so I don't want to give an expert opinion where I'm not an expert in that specific. Maybe Jenna can add to that if it's cotton or.
Yeah, so actually any of the styles that you recommended, but I definitely would steer more towards the 100% cotton because some of those white toner transfers actually apply at a very high temperature. And you mentioned cotton is very forgiving, so you won't have to really worry about scorching or burning. So the did you say it was the 4890?
Yeah, 4980, 52.
4980.
Yeah.
I'm just mixing words today.
Thank you. Thanks for helping me out on that one.
Yeah.
I've not experimented with white toner, so
I have just very little, but I do know some they do apply at a pretty high temperature. So you want to make sure 100% cotton anytime you get into some of those high temp applications. For example, another another print application instruction for goof proof is actually 365, which you can apply for just 4 seconds. So a lot of people will use that application to really just speed up their print process and their print time. And so you would want 100% cotton for those high temp solutions because cotton is not going to burn or scorch at those high temperatures. All right, Shauna, did you say there was one more question? Or
that's all we have for right now. Thanks.
Okay, great. So moving on from plastisol ink transfers, and that is one solution that you can very easily print on 100% cotton. Another is heat transfer vinyl. So heat transfer vinyl is a vinyl with a permanent adhesive on the back of it that is heat activated. So for those of you that have worked with vinyl in the past, maybe you're doing sign vinyl for decals or you're personalizing tumblers, this is going to be perfect for t-shirts because it has that permanent adhesive, and it also is a very lightweight finish. So for those of you familiar with vinyl and it being a little bit more thick, this is definitely a more thin and durable heat transfer vinyl that will actually complement the t-shirt as opposed to feeling too heavy. All right, so heat transfer vinyl is really great for personalization and also some of those low runs. Again, you guys will be learning a lot more about this type of transfer throughout the duration of today. But this is a really easy product to work with. So this particular heat transfer vinyl, we already printed that one. Here we go. It's going to apply at 325 degrees for 15 seconds. And you'll notice that once you've applied one heat transfer, it's pretty much the same after that. You're just following different application instructions. So the same thing that we already did, we're opening up the bottom of this t-shirt and we are threading it on. Now, for those of you that are considering the A to Z, or maybe you work with the A to Z already, there is the option to thread the t-shirt on from the back as well. Now, I learned whenever I first got into heat printing to just thread from the bottom, because on a lot of the other Hottronics styles, that's the only option to thread. But with the A to Z, you can either thread from the back or from the front because the post is in the middle of the heat press as opposed to the back. So that allows us to have that opening in the back to be able to thread. So when getting started, if you want to be able to look right down on top of the t-shirt, this is the best way to do it because it's threading from the back. I can dress my platen, get an idea for how the t-shirt is going to look whenever it's worn, and then that will help me with lining up my heat transfer. Right, so you can do it from the back if you want to, not have to work upside down. All right, so again, we are doing the preheat. This step is going to release any moisture or wrinkles in the fabric. I don't know if you guys can see that steam coming through, but again, very common, happens a lot with 100% cotton. And at this point, you're just selecting what product that you want to use. A lot of great heat transfer vinyls are going to be shown today, but some of my top two that I choose for just a basic matte finish is Ultra Weave, because it can apply as low as 260 degrees or 280 on cotton, 260 on synthetics. And then also Premium Plus, which has a very nice, like buttery, soft heat transfer finish that feels amazing, but also has a 4-way stretch, right? And that 4-way stretch allows it to move with the garment as opposed to just kind of stop if it's being stretched or anything like that. Now I'm placing my heat transfer vinyl. One thing that we are going to do differently with this application that we did not do with the screen print transfer is use a cover sheet. Now there are different types of cover sheets out there. We offer this craft paper, which is very similar to butcher paper, right? So if you guys are using like butcher paper or anything like that, it's pretty much the same thing. It does have a little bit of a non-stick coating on there. So if something does get on that, you can wipe it off. But these do come in a pack of 10 or 25, depending on how you order them. So they are easy throwaways. There are other cover sheets out there known as reusable cover sheets, which are kind of like a Teflon material that you can use as well. So keep that in mind. There are different styles out there, but they all do the same thing. The goal for the cover sheet is to protect your upper platen from getting adhesives or anything that could possibly be on the shirt transfer to it, and vice versa. If something were to accidentally get up here, you wouldn't want that to transfer down onto your shirt and then have to make up the cost for that because it can't be sold at that point. right? So if you guys are working with a lot of different heat transfers, it's good to just keep these handy so that you can protect any of that from happening. All right, so this product is a hot peel, so we can go ahead and remove that carrier. And this transfer is actually featured in the Stahls marketing kit. So if you guys didn't get a chance to order one of these yet, you want to be able to work with this transfer, use it as a sample to show your customers of different products that you offer. This one is in there, so you guys can use that. All right, so more information on the kits that we are offering are right on our homepage. But you can see it does have a very nice matte finish. It's very thin and lightweight. So it does complement the t-shirt. It's not going to feel too heavy or anything on there. And honestly, if I could compare this to another print method, it would be screen print, right? It is very thin, lightweight. It does sit on top of the t-shirt, but the adhesive is on there. That is what attaches to the fibers of the substrate, the garment, the fabric, and it lasts 50 plus washes. All right, so very durable products that we are working with here. So this is heat transfer vinyl. We've shown you Plastisol ink, which is also a very durable heat transfer. It's going to last that 50 plus wash cycle. All right, now before we get into our last application, which is special effect heat transfer vinyl, we're going to show you how to do a 2-color application so that you guys can see you can do more with heat transfer vinyl as opposed to just single color applications. But I just want to make sure we are touching base on questions.
Thanks, Jenna. We do have a couple of questions. So the first one is, are you able to thread from the back with the Fusion IQ model press? And that comes from Shalina.
No, you cannot with the Fusion IQ model. The post is in the back of the heat press, which is manufactured for the draw feature. And so that you can have full threadability from the front. So no, you cannot use the back thread on the Fusion IQ.
Okay, Desiree is asking, she says many of her customers are looking for a shirt that absorbs moisture. What shirt would be best to use when applying heat transfer vinyl?
Okay, so we'll be covering this in, I believe it's the class following this, but it's the one with Jennifer Johnson. She'll be showing how to print on synthetic fabrics, which have moisture wicking capabilities in it, but a lot of the heat transfers are going to work on that style. There's a lot of moisture wicking fabrics that we've worked with through Sanmar, through their Sport Tech line, that work phenomenally with a lot of our different heat transfers. So depending on the solution you're looking for, whether it be full color, like a digital product, single color heat transfer vinyl, or Plastisol ink, we do have a lot of solutions for moisture wicking fabrics. So we definitely have a solution for that. But Jennifer Johnson will be showing those different print solutions in her class that talk more on those moisture wicking and synthetic fabrics.
Okay, thank you. Shalina just wanted to confirm that the transfers come from Transfer Express.
Okay, so good question. The Plastisol ink, the first application we did, the Wildcats on the tie-dye t-shirt, this is a Plastisol ink. So anything screen print or Plastisol ink related is going to be through Stahls Transfer Express. That is our screen print division. Anything heat transfer vinyl or like specialties such as patches or twills would be through just Stahls. Okay. Sorry to confuse you, but that's how it works right now.
Thanks. Then Terry, I'm getting some information on the sold out kits, so I'll post that in the chat. But then Walter is asking, how does the pressure/temperature differ for thicker fabrics? For example, tees as opposed to hoodies.
Okay, so Anytime I am working with a hoodie, and we're going to be covering hoodies and like fleece type garments a little later, myself and Dave Connor will be speaking on this. But ultimately, the only time you are going to change your time, temperature, and pressure is if your heat transfer recommends it. All right. So with that being said, if you are worried about scorching or crushing a raised fiber such as fleece, you are going to want to source a heat transfer that calls out that it applies 300 degrees or less and at a light to medium pressure. So for example, if I'm choosing a heat transfer vinyl that I want to press on a poly fleece hoodie, I'm going to choose Ultra Weed because it applies as low as 260 and it is going to apply at a light pressure. So the only time you are actually going to change your time, temperature, and pressure is if the product calls for it. You wouldn't want to take a product that applies at 325 and just drop the temperature because it will fail, right? It's not going to stay on the garment. It could potentially come off in the wash or just not apply at all at your heat press. All right, we have just 3 minutes left. So I'm going to show you guys this last application in a 2-color design and how that works. Again, still working with 100% cotton here. The products that I'm using are Fashion Film Electric and Metallic. All right, same steps here, threading on the t-shirt, isolating our print area, preheating. These are the 2 colors that we are working with. So this is, oh gosh, I just ripped my transfer in half. All right, let's piece that together. Good thing I didn't actually rip the vinyl. All right, so we're working with Fashion Film Electric Olive and Metallic. All right, and this is Metallic Gold. And this is the last step of the application that we are going to do because this is actually going to lay right on top of my olive. So I'm going to take my now 2 pieces of my design and place that down. All right, so whenever you are doing your first application here, what you're going to do is actually apply this by just tacking it. All right, so if you're doing a 2-color design with a product that is a hot peel, you can just do a 3 to 5 second tack. That's what we're going to do here. Again, this is Fashion Film Electric. It applies at 325. So we're just doing a quick 5-second tack here. And then I can go ahead and remove that carrier. It is a hot peel. I have no idea how that rips like that. Okay, so then whenever you get to the second color of your design or the second media that you're using, you are just going to place that where the desired location is based off of how you had your artwork set up. And since this is my last step, I'm just going to apply for the full application. Now we are working with 2 medias, which means we are working with 2 different application instructions technically. So Fashion Film Electric, I mentioned, applies at 325 degrees, whereas CAD Cut Metallic will apply as low as 300 degrees. Anytime you have 2 products that apply at 2 different temperatures like that, you do want to use the temperature of the product that applies at the highest temperature. So since Fashion Film Electric applies at 325, we're going to also apply CAD Cut Metallic at that temperature. And that's how you do mixed media designs, right? Or even multicolor designs where you can tack the first color and then apply for the full application on the second color or last color of the design that you're doing. Some best practices whenever you are working with multiple colors in your design is to always make sure that you are tacking first, and second, be careful not to layer too much. because that is how thick it is going to get whenever you apply. So heat transfer vinyl layers very well. There are some not recommended for layering, but you can see that Fashion Foam Electric can be layered because we have our metallic layer directly over top. So those are, there are different recommendations of what can and cannot be layered, but there's a lot of different things that you guys can do with mixed media, especially with special effect finishes. So as we're going through this, we're going to be talking about a lot of different print finishes that you can achieve and how those directly relate to different markets that you can reach and ultimately build more unique value in your brand and ultimately the most profitability that you can in just printing a basic t-shirt. All right, so before we go ahead and wrap this up, just want to double check on questions.
Sorry, Jenna. Yeah, so just to reiterate for Shalana, what did you just print? Fashion Foam Electric, was that 2 layers or 2 different kinds?
Yeah, so Fashion Foam Electric was the first color, which was the olive green, and then we did CAD Cut Metallic as the second color, which was the gold.
Okay, and then just to confirm for Kathy, you can put goof proof on 50/50 cotton poly blends.
Yes.
Those are all the questions. And there's one outstanding question about the marketing kits that Terry asked earlier. We're trying to get that answered. They are showing sold out, but we'll have that answer in the next session.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Shauna, for your help. And thank you, Tim, for joining us for yet another Stahls event. We love having you and Hanes here to really help build more value into this free education for our viewers.
Thank you so much, Jenna and Stahls, for having us.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next session.